And we are live. Hello and welcome, everybody. So nice to meet you. My name is Paloma. I am the Community Marketing Associate at Power to Fly, and I am really, really happy to be your moderator today. I have the pleasure to be in this. I have the pleasure to be in this conversation with Kylie Meisler from Game Changer. Hi, Kylie. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. And I want to thank everybody for joining us, for making some time and space in your busy schedule and participate in this conversation. So before we jump into the conversation, I would like to go over some really quick and simple housekeeping rules. So we would love for you to participate. So make sure to turn off your camera. This is a free judging zone. If you didn't take a bath, no worries. So please feel free to turn off on your cameras, come out of mute if you'd like to share any extra questions. Just keep in mind that if you do, you will appear in our live stream. This chat is also being recorded. So in 3 or 4 business days, you will receive a rewatch email with a link to the recording. And also we want to encourage you to write your comments in the chat, but if you'd like to remain anonymous, you can do. So in that case, you just DM me and I'll ask the question for you. And also please remember to follow us in our social media. Our handles are Power to Fly, and make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can get updated on all of our dope content. So moving forward to our fantastic speaker today, we have Kylie Meisler. Kylie is the partner and event operation manager at Game Changer, where she helps develop brand awareness and drive top of the funnel acquisition. She's a former collegiate athlete with a master's degree in business administration and has a passion for youth sports. So Kylie, hello and welcome. And is there anything we should bear in mind, we should know about you for this chat?
Oh, hi. Thank you so much, Paloma. Nothing that I can think of to keep in mind of this chat. I think, one thing I'm excited to chat with you guys about, I read some of the questions that were submitted ahead of time, is I believe there'll be people on this chat from many different backgrounds. And because I have a background in sports and I work in marketing, but work at a company that is very tech driven and in the tech industry. I think it creates, great conversation about, finding passion and finding the common ground with working with others and bringing value to your teammates and with what you do.
That's great. I'm really looking forward to your answers. We reviewed a curated list of questions and the questions are awesome. So we're really looking forward to your knowledge. But before we get started, I want to make sure that you're all very aware that Game Changer is hiring. So we'll dive into more details near towards the end of the chat, but I also want you to know that you can follow Game Changer at Power to Fly. In that way, you will not also be letting know Game Changer that you're interested at them, but you will also be reviewing, you will be also notified whenever there's a new job opening. And if you go access that link, you can get more insights about their values, their benefits, and the description of each open role. So I'll be sharing that information in just a moment in the link. In the chat, sorry. But before we dive to the Q&A session, I want to highlight the key takeaways for this conversation. So today we're going to talk a little bit about how we can blend our interests in our careers, which is super, super important. And we are going also to talk about how we can find value in the work that we already do. And also Kylie is going to share some insights about the importance of advocating for a work-life balance. So Kylie, is there anything you'd like to add towards this?
I don't think so. I think we'll cover it in some of these questions and I'm excited to dive in.
That's great. That's great. Okay. So let's get down to business. Let's go with our first question. So it says, how can we identify which interest may be transferable to a job? Could you share a little bit about your journey in this aspect?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start with the journey to the aspect. So as we mentioned a little bit in the introduction, I was a collegiate athlete. So I grew up playing all sorts of sports, but in high school, I narrowed it down to softball. And I ended up, was very blessed and lucky to receive a scholarship to go to the next level. And I competed at the collegiate level and was able to obviously get a degree, but play softball. And that was one of my biggest passions. And through that, because I was an athlete, I was also a fan of sports, and I like watching all sports. My undergrad degree was in sports management. All my life, I thought I knew I wanted to stay in sports, but I thought I wanted to work in professional sports. So I had that kind of tunnel vision mindset. I was going to graduate with a sports management degree. And I think, like a lot of young adults going in and finding a degree, you think you're going to go out, you're going to immediately find that perfect job, make $100,000 a year, which doesn't happen. And just immediately, be passionate about everything you do. So I landed a really cool internship working in a collegiate bat wooden baseball league, and it's kind of like a stepping ground for collegiate baseball players if they want to make it to that next level and get seen by professional scouts. And I was getting my feet wet in operations and the game day aspect, and when I started after that internship, started looking for other jobs, and I applied for grad school, and I knew I wanted to get an MBA as well, because I wasn't quite sure what kind of direction I wanted to be in professional sports. I started looking at the job field, and I knew I was passionate about sports. I love sports, but I found myself not being very passionate about the direction I was going to go. I loved being more of a spectator of the professional sports realm than somebody who wanted to work in that realm. And so I got a little discouraged, to be honest with you. I thought I put all my time and money into getting degrees that I wasn't sure where I was going to end up. And I ended up going back to where I had my internship as a general manager of the organization. And through that experience, it really settled, placed on my heart that I really wasn't passionate about what I was doing. And I did feel a loss because I still loved sports. I went to a convention, and I met two gentlemen who were set up at this convention with a card table and a laptop. And they were at their very first convention demonstrating Game Changer, what Game Changer was. And for those of you who don't know, Game Changer is a scorekeeping app for coaches. And so what they do is they keep score in the app. And not only it calculates stats, which is big for coaches, it takes a lot of time for them to do that, and it translates to their job, but it also connected parents and family members to youth sports. So if they were out traveling and they, for work, or couldn't make a game, or grandparents, they could follow this game live and be connected. And I actually got really excited about that. I remember going back to the hotel that night, calling my mom, because my mom was the parent scorekeeper of all my teams growing up that would keep the book, hand it to the coach. And she was able to make every game. And my dad made most of our games, but he was in an industry with his job that he couldn't take off all the time. And he missed a lot of that aspect. And I called my mom and I said, "You're not going to believe what they have now." And I think that's where I realized that my passion for sports, it was about the sports, but it was about all that experience I had growing up and playing, and the time I spent with my family traveling. And I realized that I could direct my passion for athletics and sporting events into something that could translate to everyday human beings. So the busy parent, the grandparent, the aunt and uncle who wants to stay connected. So I think what I had to do is kind of take a step back and realize, okay, I know what I love, what I like to consume in my free time, and where I find my energy when I'm not working. But then how can I translate that to a career? And I was very lucky to find that in Game Changer. And so I think where you can find your interests to be transferable to a job is to maybe take a step back and think about what are you interested in? What are you passionate about? What makes you excited at the end of the day? If you're going to a job that is a great job and you like, but you find yourself always thinking about something else, or waiting to get off work to really dive into something that brings you joy, think about what is that, and how could that translate into something you do. Caveat, I am not an engineer. I work with a lot of engineers, and they are wicked smart and bring a ton of value. But there was another question that I think I saw pop up that made me think about this. Say you're an engineer, but you have a passion in something that is completely different. And I think one of the example was they liked calligraphy or something like that, very artistic. What can you do? You have talent, obviously, in engineering and the technical side of things. How could you bring your love of that passion that you do outside into a career? Maybe you're going to create an app that can help people be artists themselves when they're not very artistic. Maybe you can bridge the gap in that artist community by using your technical skills and building, great platforms, whether it's, an app or a web base, and you can create, a business or around that, or find a company that has a niche for what you're passionate about, and see if they have openings for a technical role. I think right now, and 2020 has been, a kind of a rough year for a lot of people. It's just a lot of shakeup. I know most of our company, or right now, all of our company is working remote. And we were a company that was mostly in our headquarters. A few of us worked remotely, but now we're going to be in a world where there's an option to work remote full time, and an option to be in the office if you like. So now I think the sky's the limit to where you could go out and find companies that that you are passionate about, and see where you might fit into that role. So what I did with Game Changer is I immediately went on their website and looked at their companies. And I know I'm not an engineer, so I had to look past those roles, but there was a customer service position open, and I had a passion for people and a passion for helping people. And I knew that I would fit in well there. And then my background in sports. And so I, sent the gentleman that I met an email, applied for the job. And through that experience, I've been able to move up within Game Changer and change roles a little bit into more marketing and business development.
That's great. Thank you. Yes, I think we need to get creative, understand which is our passion, and get creative and understand that maybe our dream job won't come in the traditional way that we had thought, but it will still be related to our passion. So thank you, Kylie, for sharing that. Also, we had this question, but I think you have already answered it, but if you'd like to share some more insights, please feel welcome to do so. But it says, how did your formative years as an athlete translate to how you show up every day at Game Changer?
Yeah, I think that's the great question. So being an athlete, one thing that I think that I've learned growing up and transitioning that into a career is you have to show up every day and put in, 100% of your effort. And a lot of times, especially with my particular sport and background, baseball and softball is a game of failure. So you'll go up to bat, and if you get a hit 3 out of 10 times, that's actually pretty successful. And when you tell that to somebody who doesn't really know baseball or softball, they're like, that's 30%. That doesn't really sound very successful to me, but it is. And so you have to learn to kind of put on a little bit of a tough shell and be able to not accept failure, but be able to learn from your failure and get motivated to, okay, that didn't work. Let's see what else works. Let's go back at it. And you have to almost be hungry for more. And one thing, especially in this world of technology and innovativeness, everybody's innovating things. One thing that I've learned, so with our company, we have a lot of competitors out there that, want to get into this tech space and this youth sports space. And you always have to feel like somebody's at your heels wanting your position. So I was a catcher, and, there's a handful of infielders, there's 3 outfielders, there's only 1 catcher and 1 pitcher. And so that can be in the game at any given time. And there was 3 or 4 of us on a team that wanted that position. And so you always have to go out every day and work hard and work to improve and better yourself and learn from not only your failures, but your successes, and then how to replicate that every day. And I think that's what I take into my job is, we are a successful company in youth sports, especially right now in baseball and softball, and now we're growing into other sports and into other industries, is that there's somebody who wants to be us, and we can't, even though we are one, I would like to, I might be a little biased, but I would like to say we are the best youth sports app out there today. We can't just be okay with that. We want to continue to grow, because as the industry changes, the world is changing. I think we've all seen that this past year, where everything's gone virtually. And one thing I think has been great is just looking out, just the park across the street from our neighborhood, is more families were at home. Like, parents had to work remotely, so people were getting out and doing stuff with their kids. They were going camping, all this kind of stuff. So the world is changing, and as a company and as an employee, I think you need to be able to change with it. So one of the things I mainly learn from is to learn from my past, is learn from my failures, learn from my successes, and then continue to grow on that. And if you show up every day and be a good teammate, that's one thing, especially nowadays, things are virtual. You don't be able to see, you can't have a conversation face to face with a lot of your teammates anymore. And a lot of people have struggled with that. 2020 has been a very lonely year for some people. And if you can be a good teammate across not only your direct team, but your overall company, or even colleagues in your industry that you can connect with, not only are you going to better yourself, you're going to better them, and you're going to learn. And I think that's one thing that is the biggest thing I took away, is to be a good teammate and to show up every day.
That's great. Love that. Love the softball analogy. I was an outfielder, so I didn't get that feeling about people fighting for my position. So moving to the next question, one of our users shared, I will be completing my MBA by this month, and I was wondering how I can best introduce the knowledge and skills I've learned here into my current job as a software developer. Any advice? How can I address these to my managers?
Yeah, I loved this question. So I obviously have an MBA, as you know from the intro, and I came from a very different background from you. Definitely not a software developer, but I work with a lot of software developers and engineers and in the tech side of things. And actually, with Game Changer, the majority of our employees are in a technical type of role, and the one thing that I've kind of learned to be being a part of this company, I think you are in a great position getting an MBA. So one thing is that you've probably taken class on, like business development, marketing, HR, leadership, teamwork, management, and organizational behavior, for example. So some of those things that maybe you didn't have experience with in your like technical role. You're going to be able to bridge the gap. So one thing that our company has really strived to do in the past several years is bridge the gap between the non-technical roles and the technical roles. And I think that's hard in every company, but especially in the tech world, tech startups and companies that are, have apps or are online, is you have a marketing team and customer support teams that more are kind of on the HR, like people, what I like to say, the people ops type of personalities and roles. And then you have the technical side of things, the engineers, the developers, the product managers, and we think very differently, which is a great thing, because that's how one thing's people who know me will laugh because I say this a lot. It was actually part of my wedding vows when I married my husband, but teamwork makes the dream work. And I truly believe that. And we don't want people, in a company that all think alike. You're not going to be able to think outside the box. You're not going to be able to grow as a company. But our brains work very different, which is great. And so your technical roles, you're going to be, or in knowledge, you're going to be able to bring to the table when you can talk to your managers and think of ideas of where's your company stand, maybe what pain points are you going through as a company. Pain points you're going through getting projects across the finish line, because I know a lot of times at our company, the marketing team and where it comes to email, social media, partnerships, which is what I do, and then our product development, we need to work together to be able to bring the solutions and bring the product to our end user. And so I think with your knowledge now with the MBA, and you've been able to get a taste of what marketing is, what business development is, that you'd be able to expand your mindset and to see how, as a software developer, you can bridge that gap, and vice versa. I've learned a lot working with my teammates and listening. And I think that's one thing too, is getting in a one-on-one with an engineer, one of our product managers, and listen and listen to the obstacles that they have instead of them, because they have roadmaps and they have timelines, they have to get things done, and things that I think are easy to develop definitely aren't. And the funny thing I found out is things that I think it would be super hard to develop are typically pretty easy. So it's getting into working, like I said, bridging that gap. But one thing, that you had experience with, probably statistics, information systems, you're going to be able to also help share that knowledge to your non-technical teammates as well. And I think when you bring it up to your managers, maybe bring it up to an aspect that you want to be that teammate that helps, bridge the gap or open up those lines of communication and collaboration. I think that's the biggest obstacle that we had to face growing as a company from a very small tech startup company to where we are today.
That's great. And I think this is also aligned to what we talked during our prep call about understanding the value that each one brings to the table and identifying what our bright sides, what can we bring to the table. And once we're well aware of that, then we will be able to speak about this with our managers. So that's great. Thank you, Kylie, for that lovely explanation. And here we have another question that it says, what are your suggestions for blending your interests with a career when you live in a small rural area that doesn't have feasible work opportunities that align with your interests? What's the importance of having passions outside of your work? And I think this question is really, really important, because we always receive, you got to fight for your dream job, but that sometimes it's just not possible. So how can we make sure that we're still passionate about our life when our work is what we do for most time of the day?
Yes, absolutely. One thing that probably is that is good that's come out of this past year and a half is I do think that even if you live in a rural area that doesn't have a lot of opportunities immediately where you live, because the world is much more virtual now, I think that is a plus. So one thing I would suggest is to really think about what are your passions, and to write those out and see what you would like to do, and do a search. Go out and look online for jobs that might allow for that, because you'll be very surprised nowadays that a lot of these companies that typically were housed, maybe in, a specific area, New York, San Francisco, somewhere where you don't live, they have virtual openings and now. And so attending virtual events like this Power to Fly and networking events, online conventions is a great way to kind of expand your reach beyond your rural community. But if that's also something that is maybe a little bit more in the future, and a little bit, you need something a little bit more immediate, I think too, yes, it's very important to find passions outside of your work. I think that's one thing, and you might, Paloma, you might actually be bringing this question down later as well. But one thing I thought about is when it talked about, passion and purpose. There was a question about passion and purpose, and we can touch on that a little bit too. But I think when you don't have, when you have a purpose, you have a job and you don't have passion, whether it's in your job or setting aside time to have your passions outside of your work, that equates to burnout. You can only do so much before you mentally, emotionally, will just get burned out. So I think it's very important to, if you are currently in a role where, it's a job that, is making ends meet. It's something that you have right now, but you don't maybe have other opportunities available. It is important to find a passion, whether it's be able on the nights and weekends to shut down and log off and take some time for yourself. I think your mental and physical well-being is so important, and especially nowadays where everything is remote and we've been under masks for a year and a half and haven't been able to really interact with people how we had in the past. It's important to take care of yourself mentally and physically, and to take that time away, whether it's spending with families, going out for a hike, playing a game of chess, whatever it is that you're passionate about. You'll notice that if you invest time and fill your cup a little bit, when you come to your job, you'll be able to pour out into your work, but also pour out into others. And I think that also is very rewarding as well. So definitely, I encourage you to look outside your specific community, because now that we're all virtual, you'd be very shocked that there might be an opportunity that's perfect for you just waiting out there. But also definitely spend some time to fill your passions, because that way it will allow you to be re-energized when you go back to work.
Yeah, totally. I think it's about creating like maybe small rituals. Like if you like to read, make sure you wake up a little bit early and you get like 15 minutes to read your favorite book. As you were saying, Kylie, that fuels you for the rest of the day. And in that way, you can make a better job, you can be a better colleague. So yeah, and I agree that, yeah, and this past year has been really challenging, but it has definitely had it definitely represents its silver linings. So this remote world in which we live has contributed to make a more democratic access to job opportunities, and that is super great. And this next question, it's really aligned to the one that we're talking about. It says, I know I won't feel passionate about the content of my work, but how can I at least find passion in the work in the people that I work with? How can I create spaces for us to connect?
I think this is a great question, and I could actually bring in a little bit of example with Game Changer as well. Now, obviously, with what Game Changer produces in our company with our app and our services to our users, I'm very passionate about that. But I'm quite possibly work with a lot of coworkers who don't have a passion for sports, and that's okay. They're really smart people and great at the technical roles, whether it's engineering, coding, stuff that is way over my head. I respect them for that, and they are able to come to our, I was about to say our office, but we haven't been in an office in a year and a half, but come to every day to work, and they are able to, with our company is so welcoming. And I know we'll touch on this a little bit more, but what I think is so rewarding about the workspace that Game Changer has provided is there's people from so many different backgrounds and interests, and you're able to connect with people on a level outside of what you do and what your company does on a day-to-day basis. So while you might be coming to work and might not be passionate about kind of the end product of what you do, you're obviously probably passionate about what it is you do. So for example, we have engineers that might not be passionate about sports, but they are passionate about finding solutions for hard problems with the technical roles that they do with engineering and product development. So I think you can still find be excited about what you do, and not necessarily, the end result, of what is produced at the end of the day. But, I think in this day and age with finding spaces for us to connect, we're on a Zoom call right now. And one thing that our company has done really well, our HR and our office managers, is they've found time for us to connect virtually outside of work. We're in meetings all day long and we can see each other across the screen. But again, that is, about work, but we've attended virtual happy hours and like little concerts that we've attended virtually, or trivia games. And through those after hours or maybe on a work break, our company also hosts I believe it's every day. I don't get to attend every day, but a virtual coffee chat in the morning. So instead of hanging out in the Game Changer kitchen and having coffee in the morning, they attend there for like 30 minutes, and you can find common interests with people who might not be on your team, that you never knew you had common interests with. And I think that's also really important. If you don't have the passion necessarily for the actual work that you do and the product, when you can find common ground with the people that you share in the company, your coworkers, you'll be excited to come to work, because then you have a friend, you have an ally, as well, online, or hopefully one day we can be in person again, in our companies, and you have somebody that you can take that mental health break with, and throughout the day. I think that's important. Like we just talked about, even if it's a 5-minute walk. I remember when I used to be in the office, I had a coworker every now and then, if we were just, had a big project or it was just a really busy time, we'd kind of look at each other and be like, do you want to go grab a coffee? And we said, yes. And it's just getting out for fresh air and chatting about something that is not necessarily a part of the job, just kind of refreshes, your minds, but also it helps you grow like love and respect also for the people you work with. I have, mad respect for people who we used to call the other side of the room, because in the old office, marketing and the non-technical people were off in one corner and everybody else was in the other. And we really didn't interact. And we do a better job of that now, virtually, and then in our office where we kind of commingle. But when you find that common ground, it also, I think, translates into your work relationships as well, because you can have, open conversations. And I think it also helps spur creativity as well, when you're able to know somebody on a level outside of your day-to-day work operations.
Teamwork makes the dream work in every single aspect. So yeah. I love that. And I want to encourage our lovely audience to participate in the chat box. If you have any extra question that you'd like to make, please feel free to drop it or come out of mute. We would love to hear from you. But moving on to our next question, somebody asked, how can we stay happy and motivated in our personal life while going through a rough patch in our careers? So people usually say like, well, your job is not your whole life. Don't get too personally attached, but it's really hard when what we do for the most of the day is work. So what would your advice for this person be?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that this is a great question. And well, I don't want to say hit like necessarily a rough patch, because I know some people have really rough patches where, it can be really hard to get up and go to work every day or log in. But we've had some growing pains as a company. So we started as a tech startup, and we were really successful, and we got acquired by a larger company. And during that time, there's definitely transition of new people coming in, other people finding new opportunities because they like that small tech startup space. And my team specifically on the marketing and partnerships team, we had a lot of change in the last couple of years. And I had great teammates that I was a part of it in the past, and I have wonderful teammates now. But I went through a time where, I was on a very, very small team. And at times I was, the only marketing person in-house. And we had I had partners with our parent company that were helping with marketing, and I became a part of their team as well. But there was times that it was hard because a lot of my experience was the partnerships and marketing, the business development type of things. And I had to, bring on some roles and some responsibility that I necessarily didn't either have background in, or maybe wasn't very passionate about myself. I learned quickly some HTML and some emails, some email hacking and stuff like that, so I could put together some marketing emails. And I didn't have any experience with that, and there was times that it was hard because I felt like I was doing a lot of work, which I loved. I loved the company and I loved what I was doing, but I'm being an athlete. I think too, it plays into this, is I like to see results. So if I'm gonna do something and I'm very competitive, it proves that with anybody who plays a board game with me or any sort of game, I get very competitive, and I definitely like to win, but I like to see results. And there was times that I felt like I was doing this work and I was just kind of almost a little bit of a hamster on a hamster wheel, and not feeling like I was, even though I know I was bringing value, but not feeling like I was really moving the needle and bringing a lot of value. And I think that, so to me, that was a little bit of my rough patch. And there was times I went to bed at night and I was just tired and needed to stay motivated to get up and do it again the next day. So I think one thing is to take a step back. So there's a lot of times that I had to just take a step back and reorganize my day, reorganize my thought process, and mark off those wins. I think that's really important. You can say, yes, your work isn't your whole life, but it's a lot of your life, and it's a lot of your day. And I think, one thing is to mark off those wins and feel successful and share your experiences with either family members that live in your home or friends. I think that's important too. If you just keep everything kind of siloed at work, it's kind of hard to separate that, because when you go out and you don't have that release to talk to people about it outside of your work, you always have it kind of, I think, in the back of your head. And so one thing, my family and friends and coworkers, but as well as my husband, is I would try to let them know like where I was either feeling that rough patch or those pain points, and being able to talk through it helped me kind of with that release a little bit. And I was able to enjoy that time away and with family, and then come back and motivated that I wanted to, again, the competitiveness in me wanted to come back and win the next day. So I think part of it is still making that blend. I think it's okay to blend your work life and your home life, especially nowadays. I mean, I'm sitting in a home office, so it's hard. You can't really walk away and drive, get in your car and drive away at the end of the night. But I think, there's some blending time, and then there's a balance of pressing pause, stopping, and again, finding that passion outside of your work. Again, whether it's hiking, playing chess, reading a book, like you said, even if it's for 5, 10, 15 minutes, I think that is a way to stay happy and motivated in your personal life as well.
And that leads us to our next question. That is, what's your strategy for maintaining a work-life balance? So as you were mentioning, now that we're all working from home, we're working from our most intimate space, so it's really hard to delimit limits, so it's really up to us if we stop working, if we pause and do another thing outside of work, if we take some time for self-care. So what's your advice? What are your strategies? How did you manage to get by this crazy last year?
Yes, I think that, I think a lot of people have experience in this. I think I've had a little bit more experience than some of my coworkers, because I've actually been remote the past 6 or 7 years, where some people, have just been remote, by force, kind of the last year and a half. And so I actually started working for Game Changer remotely, moved to New York, was in the office for a couple of years, and then relocated because of my spouse's position. And so I live actually on the Pacific time zone, and Game Changer is in New York, so it's on the Eastern time zone. And I like to keep East Coast hours because I like to be online when all my coworkers were in the office. And I felt like that was the best way to be a good teammate and for that collaboration across, different teams. So when I first started working remotely, and I had a hard time with that because 6 o'clock New York time was only 3 o'clock here in Vegas where I live. And so there'd be time that my husband would come home from work and it was 5 or 6, 7 o'clock at night, and I was still online. He's like, what are you doing? You've been online since 6 a.m. this morning. And it was really hard. And so what I think my strategy now for maintaining that work-life balance is to kind of keep an eye on that time, like be able to, since I am online early, and if you work in the same time zone, notice like when you start work, notice if you think when you're in your office, when would you have shut down and gone home for the day? Not to say if there's something you need to get done, you can't get online later and finish it, or you can't finish a project. One thing I've really loved about the company that I work for is we have a really good work-life balance. As long as you get your stuff done and you are, accomplishing your task and being a good teammate, there's really that flexible time where you can, whether it's a vacation or being able to schedule appointments in the middle of the day and go do that. I think that's important because then you don't feel like you're always tied to your computer. And I have found if I feel free to step away for a little bit, whether it's a shutdown when it should be the end of my workday to go to the gym or to run to the grocery store, I feel like I have more energy to come back and finish a task or whatnot. So I think it's very important to monitor that time that you are online. But like I said, you need to fill your cup, fill your passions so you can pour out into others. And I think that equates into pouring out into your work as well. If you're running on empty the entire time, you're not going to be able to give 110% to your job.
Correct. And how can we tell in an interview process if the company for which we are interviewing is really into work-life balance? Like what type of questions should we be asking?
Definitely. When you come for an interview for any job, I would ask about the culture. Kind of leave it open-ended. What is the culture here at X, Y, and Z company? And see what they say. And maybe depending on how the interview structure is set up, if you're talking to different people and separately, maybe bring it up a couple times to get that the feedback from the interview viewer that's asking you questions, and look at their body language, their tone. If you are talking to your potential new boss, ask about what's their management philosophy. And a lot of times when they answer that question, you'll also find out what's important to them. Do they have passions outside of work, or whether it's a passion for, a hobby of theirs, whether they have a family, whether they love to travel or learn new things. I think that will come out in their conversation, and you can get kind of an idea of what they feel like. Ask about the typical work day or work week structure of the company. But a couple other things, there's other websites out there that you could go to. Look at Glassdoor. I know we all have to take reviews with a grain of salt sometimes, whether you're reviewing a product or a company you might work for, but you could get a good feeling for culture on that as well. But also know what's important to you. What does work-life balance mean to you? That can mean very different things to very different people. So I would also encourage you potentially on LinkedIn, maybe to reach out to a former employee or two, especially if it's somebody in the department you're going to work for, and ask them, how was the culture at that company as well? And then a lot of times when you are applying for a job or looking for jobs, nowadays companies list their benefits and their perks. as well. You can look at the website and kind of know if what they're offering kind of, if they have, a kegerator in the kitchen, they might have after hours happy hour, or if they have game nights. Look at their social media handles. A lot of times companies now have social media handles for HR purposes, and they show the the outings or events that they go to.
Awesome, great advice. And I think it's, as employees, it's really valuable to keep in mind that we're also interviewing the company. So it's the interview is our space to make all the questions that we need. So we make sure we're making the right decision too. So
Absolutely.
for that advice. So here we have the question that you mentioned before, that it says a research study within the book, The Power of Moments, measured employees on purpose and passion against job performance. Results showed that employees with purpose had higher performance than passion. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think purpose trumps passion?
This is a great question. I've actually not read this book. So when I read this question, I put it on my list for my next read. I would love to read this book. So the question is, do you think purpose trumps passion? I think that's a great question. And I don't know if I have a straight answer on that. I think it really depends. So one thing I mentioned earlier is purpose without passion can lead to a burnout. I 100% believe you can be very purposeful and have a mission, but if you're not passionate about it in your heart, if you don't wake up every day excited to do it, I believe that it could lead to burnout. So I think you have to have a mixture of both, but also passion without purpose, I believe, equals no direction. And that's okay sometimes. You can be very passionate about something and have it just as a hobby or for fun. And if there's no purpose behind it, that's okay, because that could be your release. There's times that you just want to go out and go for a nature walk or lay in a hammock, and that could be your passion, just listening to the wind or the birds, and that's fine. But if there's no purpose behind it, there's no direction. I think with your career, there has to be a good balance, because, in order to be successful in a career or a job, you definitely need to have a purpose. Why are you doing what you're doing at the end of the day? What is the purpose of what your company is building or the service it provides? And then, so that's very important. But if you have passion that goes along with that, I think that could lead to something that can be unstoppable, and something that you can be very fulfilled and happy with at the end of the day. So I think that why in some cases it definitely could trump it. I think there needs to be a good balance.
Great, love that. And that is sort of connected with our next question. Someone here wanted to know, what are you most proud of in your career to date?
So I think what I'm most proud of in my career to date is maybe the growth that I've seen, in myself with Game Changer. So as I mentioned, when I graduated college and then grad school, I thought, tunnel vision, right? I had this one direction I thought I wanted to be in. And then when I found Game Changer, was super excited about the company. And I started from what you would say the bottom floor. So I was a part-time independent contractor, customer support agent, in the queue, answering questions. And I loved that. I loved, I'm a people person. So I love being able to serve people and to help people. And through that, I went into grassroots marketing on our baseball and softball product, and the grind of, going to small conventions and coaches conventions and stopping. So our users, our customer, our coaches. And so I'd stop them, as they would walk by in the convention hall, and place an iPad in their hand and try to incite passion in for this product that I had. And through grassroots marketing then led to more the partnerships and events that I do today in marketing. And then, as I touched on a little bit earlier, through some of our growing pains and some transitional periods, there was a time where it was funny. People would ask me, "What's your role at Game Changer?" And I definitely had a role. But I would say utility player, and kind of bring it back down to that baseball and softball positional player, that I kind of wore many hats. Excuse me. And I think what I'm most proud of is kind of, it ties into one of the questions that was asked about my experience as an athlete and how I brought that in there. There was definitely challenges. It was hard to wear all those hats, but through that process, I believe that I grew. It might have been painful growing a little bit, but I grew and I expanded my knowledge. I learned a little bit of HTML coding, and I say a little bit very graciously, because I definitely can't code, but I could help the company with a need that needed a position that needed to be plugged in. Had to dabble in a little bit of social media content creation and managing, and I also had to manage some of our partners that we work with for our online marketing, SEO, SEM, some of our ads. And so through that, it was a blessing that I was able to grow and learn more about other aspects of the business that I never would have had the ability to do had I not had to put on all those hats. And I believe that through that experience, it not only allowed me to learn more about our company and think about our marketing as a company more holistically, as opposed to just my little niche market on a marketing team, but also it helped me really learn and have to work with a lot of our technical roles too, and really, not that I didn't respect them, because I respect them wholeheartedly, but really respect the job and the process that they have to do to help bring this product to our end user. Excuse me. So I think that would be probably my most proud of career today, is being able to break outside that box and grow and learn. And then through that, I think it helps me be a better teammate for my coworkers across the organization.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. And what would you say is your biggest motivation? I mean, I know we've been talking about this the whole chat, but if you could say it in one word, what's your biggest motivation?
This is a hard question, because my biggest motivation has changed in the last 6 months. I actually have a 6-month-old son. So now my biggest motivation is wanting him to look up to his mom and dad and see how we approach life and how we approach business, and learn and grow into the young man he will be one day. But in terms of game changer, I think the biggest motivation is really the end user. So we have a great product, but what I love is being able to bridge the gap or to connect families. So a lot of times, like I mentioned earlier, parents, especially nowadays, their kids be going to, a practice here, a game there. And, whether they only have 2 kids and they're playing man-to-man defense, or they have multiple kids and what I say have to play zone defense, getting the kids everywhere, or traveling, or grandparents being able to, they live halfway across the country and they're not able to go to their kids' games. We're able to bring that experience of the youth sports and to share in those exciting moments that the kids have, whether it's hitting a, home run or, be able to sit there and experience the kid struck out and is probably down at the end of the night, and the grandfather can call them and give them, a cheering pep talk, because he was there with him, even though he was hundreds of miles away. And we also have, we hear stories that we have servicemen and women who are overseas serving our country, but they were able to, quote, attend their kids' game through our platform. And I think that is my biggest motivation, is seeing that how we can help families or coaches at the end of the day make their lives easier and bring value to their lives. Really motivates me and brings me joy with what we do.
That's great. And we have time for one last question, and then we'll jump to the wrap up of the session. But this person wanted to know, how did you overcome challenges in progressing your career aligned with your interests?
I think that's a great question. I think to overcome challenges and progressing my career aligned with my interests, it kind of brings me back to the example of wearing the many hats. There's parts of what I do that I love. I am a relationships person. I love building relationships, whether it's our end users, our partners. I love having relationships with my coworkers. I love being able to call them friends. But then there's things that, might not be as fun that I do, whether it was making sure I didn't break an HTML email or working through a contract, with one of our partners. It's not always fun doing some of the technical stuff, but I think at the end of the day, when I knew like where it kind of brings us back to the passion and the purpose, right? So I think it has to be a little bit of both. If I only had purpose and didn't have the passion of what I was doing in the end of the day, then I think it would have been really hard to overcome any challenges that were thrown my way. And but because I can blend the two and I see the two in what I do, I was able to see through any kind of obstacles or challenges and be able to overcome that. And like I said a minute ago, because I went through those challenges, I don't think challenges are a bad thing ever. I think challenges are always a great thing because you're going to learn from the experience, you're going to grow one way or the other, and you're going to come out better on the other side of this challenge, right? You're either going to come out better, stronger, knowing now you have another tool in your tool belt that you can apply to your job. And, it helps you grow in that career. It makes you more marketable and also makes you more valuable to your organization. But at the same time, if there's a challenge that once you're on the other side of that challenge, you might realize something about yourself that maybe I need to change my course a little bit. Maybe this isn't where I want to be anymore. And I think that's one thing is, so overcoming the challenges, I just kind of lay out, what you need to do to get through the day and to get through whatever challenge it is, and ask for help. That's one thing that I learned in that time when I was struggling. Don't sit there and struggle on something you don't know what you're doing without asking for help. Like I said, teamwork makes the dream work. And I wouldn't be where I am today and wouldn't have been able to be that utility player for Game Changer if I didn't reach out, and ask some of my other coworkers for help. And one thing that you will learn is when you reach out to those coworkers, they're going to be more than willing to help you because they have the passion for probably what you're struggling with. And they would love to teach that to you and pour into you what they know, and vice versa. Because of that, you will probably be able to pour into them and give them a little bit of knowledge that you have that they didn't have. So, so I think that would be it. Reach out and ask for help and allow your colleagues to be good teammates to you as well.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you, Kylie, for everything that you shared. And I want to tell you all, to our community, that we have the privilege to have a beautiful prep call with Kylie, and we were able to ask her some questions regarding her thoughts to Game Changers. So we asked her if she could describe Game Changers culture in what word, and she said welcoming. We asked her what's her favorite part about working at Game Changer, and she said the ability to make an impact in the youth sports community. And we also, this is the juicy part, we asked her if she had any tips for someone who is interviewing. And Kylie, I'll let you lead us in this.
Yeah. So one thing, when you go to a company, especially when you come and interview at Game Changer, prepare, know what our product does and who our users are. That will help you know, if your passions align with what we do. And if not, because like I said, you do not need to like sports to work for Game Changer at all, but you might have a passion, again, for solving hard problems, which we definitely have all the time. We have hard problems that we want to solve with our product, or you have a passion for serving others, or you have a passion for making a mom or dad's life easier, which we definitely do. So know what our product does and our end users. Tell us why you are excited to be a part of our team. When you come in and you tell us why you're excited to be interviewing at Game Changer, it lets us know that you have done your research. It lets us know that you know what we're about. And ask us questions. Like you mentioned earlier, Paloma, it's not just when you go to an interview, it's not just us asking you questions to make sure, you check all the boxes that fit in for that role. Ask us questions, because we want to be fit into your world as well. We want to make sure that, that this is a good fit on your end. And so, and then be authentic. That's one thing. If you're authentic in yourself, you'll be able to have a great conversation with whoever you're interviewing with. And like you and I were just talking today, Paloma, it's just a conversation. And that's what we want, because then you're going to get a feel for that work-life balance and that culture. But you'll also be able to learn more about not only the role that you would be filling, but the company as a whole.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And let's go over quickly the open roles. So Game Changer is currently hiring a QA analyst, a senior product designer, senior Android engineer, senior iOS engineer, and a software engineering manager. So make sure to visit Game Changer's company page at Power to Fly. There you will find all the details to these openings. As Kylie said, you will find the information about the benefits, the value. So make sure to check out the Game Changers company page at Power to Fly. So Kylie, is there anything you'd like to add for this whole conversation?
I think the only thing I can add is, definitely find your passion. And I think there was a question that we might not have been able to get to, but, how do we know what our passions are? And what I think about is, what do you enjoy? Like, look at what you enjoy doing when you don't have to do anything. What do you like to do? And for me, for my passions, it was developed with my upbringing, what I like to do growing up. And so when you find what you really enjoy doing, I think you can be able to fit that into your work life a lot easier.
Thank you, Kylie, for that. So let's all connect with our passion. So it has been a really awesome conversation. I want to thank our community for making the time and space to join. I want to thank you, Kylie, for sharing your knowledge, your experience, and being so honest and transparent around it. And I also want to thank the Game Changer team for making this conversation possible. So it has been a pleasure, Kylie. I loved everything that you shared. Hope you all have a really happy Monday, and we'll see you in the next chat. So bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.